Thank you for double-clicking your mouse tonight. You're listening to the Midnight Frightcast in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Greg, the movie guy, coming at you with episode number 78 of the Midnight Frightcast. We are still rocking the digital, and I'm cutting the top half of my head off. I just realized that. I apologize. Now you can see all of me. How's it going? To that side is our Scream Queen, Maddie.
Hey, all you cool cats and kittens.
To my
You stole my
diagonal
line.
is Patrick.
Hey, everybody, how's it going?
And on top of me, where I always like him, the other guy in the room is Joshua.
Now it's not going to sound as cool when I say, hey, all you cool cats and kittens. Maddie stole my line.
We've got another awesome podcast for you today. Let's kickstart it with what we've been watching. We've been sitting at home all day, and surely we've been watching some stuff. So somebody tell me, what have you been watching?
I actually have been somewhat busy the last couple weeks, and I haven't gotten to watch a lot, but I watched a movie, late 80s, early 90s movie called Warlock. That was actually a really good fucking time. I would recommend that one. But other than that, I've kind of just been, just watching same old background noise.
Is that the movie with the guy standing on the poster, and then you see the demon in the shadow?
I don't think so. It's a movie about, like, this, like, warlock that, like, got transported to, like, the 80s, and then, like, the guy who's, like, hunting him got, like, transported there too, and there's, like, I don't know, it's really, really fun. I would definitely recommend it.
Okay, good to know. Patrick, what have you been watching?
Let's see. I caught a movie the other day with, I think it was released late last year or maybe early this year, called I See You. It's got Helen Hunt. It was kind of a thriller horror thing. It was advertised as a horror, but it's more of a thriller. It wasn't too bad, but it kind of bounced around a little bit too much for me, but it was still an okay movie. And then I caught a couple new series, one on Hulu called Devs, which is...
Oh, yeah. Is that any good?
I really liked it, but it's really slow-paced all the way through.
Because that stars Nick Offerman, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry,
and
I'll
he's
quit
playing
cutting you off.
No, and he's playing a character that you don't normally see him play because he's usually a comedic role. This is definitely not a comedy. So that's really interesting. And then under recommendation, I started watching Ozark on Netflix. That's really good. It's got kind of a Breaking Bad feel to it. So kind of really digging that series.
Very good. Josh?
Elizabeth and I have been kind of on a comedy kick this week. So we watched... we've still kind of working through South Park. And then we watched a movie called Blades of Glory the other night.
Nice.
We hadn't seen it for a long time, and we were just looking for something kind of stupid. And that's it.
That's definitely stupid.
But there's a lot of stuff in there that is carried over into the movie Step Brothers. There's bits in that movie that are straight into Step Brothers. So we were noticing that. But, I mean, it's a fun movie. And then I feel like one time a year, I pull out the 6-movie pack of Wrong Turn, and I start that over. So I did that this week, but I skipped the first
2, 3, 4,
Turn.
5, and 6?
No, I skipped the first one and went straight into 2, and it worked my way through, yeah. Because if I watched the first one, then 2 through 6 are just that much more terrible.
Awful?
Yeah, because, like, the first one's, like, watchable. It's not even, like, that bad, really. But if you watch that one and then you watch the other 5 are just dog shit. So, yeah, I started working my way through those again. They're actually, I mean, look, they're not good movies, but there's a lot of fun stuff in those movies. So
I really liked the first one, and I tried watching the second. I just could not.
I actually need to rewatch it because kind of funny story about Wrong Turn. This is when I watched this when Hollywood Video was still a thing, so long time ago. But I had surgery on my feet, and so I was high as a kite, and my mom took me into Hollywood Video, and like I still loved horror at that point. And she just like put me against the corner and just told me to stay there, which I did because I was valued out of my goddamn mind. And my poor mother, who like has never watched a horror movie in her life, just like went into the shelves of Hollywood Video and randomly picked up Wrong Turn, and I was like, I think she'll like this. I don't care. It's got the girl from Bring It On in it. And that was like the first time I saw that movie, and like, so I was not in my right mind when I watched it, and I need to revisit. But my poor mom.
Props to your mom. That's a pretty big task.
I know, my poor mom. She does so much of that shit.
Mom, go find me a horror movie. Oh, this one looks fun. It's got clowns in it.
Right.
Oh, fun. So I've been working with Em on watching through the Marvel universe again. So we actually have been knocking out movies left and right. We just finished Endgame last night, so I forgot how awesome the movie that was. Absolutely loved it. The one that I want to really mention, though, I actually threw into the group chat, is called The Platform. Dropped on Netflix fairly recently, and I was intrigued just because it was one of those fucking Tiffany articles saying it was so disgusting that people who weren't in the theaters were throwing up or whatever bullshit she decided to regurgitate this time. It wasn't that bad. It was gross in parts, but not for the reasons you would think it'd be gross. I was impressed by it, actually. It was a really interesting story. I had to go back through because it's a fairly heavy social commentary, which, Maddie, I know is one of your absolute favorites.
Yeah.
But kind of going through and reading some of the reviews and getting some perspective on what was going on in the film, I actually came out with a pretty good appreciation for it. So if you're looking for something new and something horror-esque with a good story, check out the Platform. So, all right. We're going to move right along here. We started a topic last time, which was our, what did we call it? I can't remember what we called it.
Movie swap?
Movie swap. We are doing the movie swap. This week, I had watched a recommendation from Josh, and he watched a recommendation from me, and then Maddie and Patrick watched recommendations from each other. So who wants to talk about their movie? Patrick, talk about your movie.
Yeah, I was going to say, I have to hear this.
Okay, so the movie that Maddie picked for me was a movie that was on my watch list the entire year of 2019. I kept saying, I'm going to watch it. I'll make it part of my 30 days of horror. And I never really got around to it. That movie is called Martyrs. It is part of the French extreme horror movement. And I watched it, and I don't know why I was putting it off, because it really wasn't as extreme to me as I thought it was going to be. Maybe I worked it up in my mind a little bit too much. It was an intriguing movie. Josh and I talked about it briefly, and I do agree, like, you can only watch someone get punched in the face so many times because they did that over and over and over. But when they got to some of the more extreme things in that movie, especially the skinning, it really was not that big of a deal watching it. So, like I said, I probably had this worked up in my mind more than what I should have. Overall, I thought it was a good movie. It had different elements. At first, I thought it was going to be a paranormal movie, because the lead character for the first third of that movie kept seeing this woman over and over, but other people couldn't see her. So I thought it was going to be a paranormal movie, but in fact, she was just delusional and she was only seeing this woman. And then it became more about kind of a thriller thing, and then it became more of the masochistic torture at the end. I did enjoy the movie, and I was surprised that I did.
Patty, do you think that you would have had a different perspective on it had you not watched whatever the fuck they're called before you watched those movies where the other movies that Maddie recommended, the
August Underground.
That.
Well, and what was the other one? High Tension. But I'd seen August Underground as well, but we had watched High Tension, which was part of that French movement. And there was another one. I can't remember what it was.
Sandman.
And do I think that I would have seen this differently? Probably not, because every time I've watched one of those movies, I go, I don't understand what the big deal is.
Good.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you.
If you just keep pushing that envelope, it gets more and more fun. And then next thing you know, you're on the dark web buying some like movie for 75 cents, and you're like, oh Lord. Then the FBI comes knocking.
Yeah. Now, when we did this last week, the other person had to explain why they picked it for.
Yeah.
I love Martyrs, and I picked it because you kept putting it off. So I was like, no, you're not wiggling out of it this time. But I actually genuinely think Martyrs is an amazing movie. And there was actually an article, I think I shared it a while ago, that said what it called Martyrs one of the best horror movies of like the 21st century. And I 100% agree with it.
It was well structured all the way through. And even the ending, which they kept completely ambiguous, I really enjoyed.
Yeah. And I think it's just something different than, I don't know. And I love the tone of that movie. I know that sounds weird because it's not a happy movie, like, at all. But, like, they just did such a good job of capturing that, like, complete brutality and kind of, like, bleakness that they were trying to do. Mm-hmm. Like, I think it's a good movie. I'm really mad that they remade it over here and then pussied it down.
All right, so the movie that I picked for Maddie is called Daddy's Little Girl, and that's not the Tyler Perry movie.
I looked it up. That's what came up, and I was like,
I know. It's actually an Australian movie, and I did warn her ahead of time that it takes a while to get into it, and then later in the message group, she's like, what the fuck's going on with this? Does it ever, like, get moving? So it'll be interesting to see what she thinks of it. I myself didn't see it. Josh, you watched it.
I didn't watch it.
Yeah, so maybe you'll have some comments after Maddie's as well. And the reason that I chose it is I tried to find something more along the lines of those French extreme horrors, but everything that I could find and things that were suggested that were like it were things that I know Maddie has already seen. And there were some that even if she didn't see, I know that there was like one that had like 10 minutes of a rape scene, and I'm sitting there, I want to be a little bit more sensitive to you, Maddie, in that sense. I didn't know how you stood on that. And
which
watching
one was
horror.
that?
I couldn't even tell you the name of it right now.
Oh, I was going to say, was it Irreversible?
Could have been.
I was going to say that has a pretty infamous, pretty long, creepy scene.
Yeah, so I kind of kept away from those.
Irreversible. Got it. All right.
Yeah.
That's actually on my watch list. I thank you for being sensitive. Unfortunately, rape kind of comes with a lot of the extremes. It just kind of, it's a no holds barred thing. So it's in there.
So then trying to find something, this was actually suggested in several groups, but they did warn the same way that I did and kind of like Josh did in the group, saying that it took a while to get to the good stuff. So with that said, Maddie, what did you think?
Okay, that's like the understatement of the century, that it took a while to get to anything in this movie. Like, there's way too much backstory about this loser that I just, like, did not give a fuck about. They actually, I thought, did a lot better job with the credits than they did, like, the whole opening. No, I'm not kidding. I'm not saying that. An asshole. Okay, a little bit, but, like, so they kind of set up in the credits, they had, like, pieces, like, over in the corner of, like, this guy's, like, life and how it ended up. He had a daughter, and then his wife and him ended up getting, like, divorced. And, like, I thought that was done well. You got that whole story, like, from that. And then, like, the first 20 minutes of the movie was, like, a continuation of that. And I was like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I've said this before, I don't like character build-up in horror movies. I just want y'all to die. And that's, like, I don't need to know your backstory. And then from, like, the 20 minutes on to, like, the 50 minutes, just, like, continued to drag out. And then, like, by the time that the good stuff and the blood, like, actually started flowing, like, I was angry. And then, like, the other thing, I just didn't think this was a well-made movie. To me, it looked like somebody's very first movie. The plot was really shallow. The acting was flat. The dialogue was bad. It just wasn't a good movie to me. And then, like, one of the things I love about extreme movies is there's a ton of emotion, and there's a lot of a tone that a lot of these extreme, like the Martyrs movie, is set. And this didn't have that because no one was really over emotional in this movie. Like, even the guy that was getting, like, tortured was just kind of like, hey, shit, man, don't do that. And I'm like, fuck off. So, yeah, like, there was some really good, like, torture bits, but, like, this just wasn't a good movie. As I said, even, like, the guy who was, like, torturing him was just kind of like, he just seemed mildly perturbed. You know what I mean? He just, like, just the acting was so flat that it just kind of like, I don't know, I feel like I put more emotion into like scrambling eggs or something. I was just like, that there was like, they raped this guy with barbed wire, and like, that was interesting.
That was rough. That was rough.
I imagine he thought so too. But other than that, it was just, and like, the effects were bad too, which kind of also, like, some of them were good, but like, there was a couple that I was like, you didn't blend that edge, and that's just kind of me with my background. Yeah, the whole thing was super, super amateur. Like, I think this was the guy's like first movie, and it was his first horror movie, and I think he'd never seen a horror movie before. Because there's no tension build up, no anything. Like, kind of from like the first like 15 minutes, I was like, you kind of knew who the person was, and yeah. So I normally really do like Australian horror, but I will steer pretty clear from this director for at least the next 20 years.
Have you seen Wolf Creek?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, never mind now. I was going to suggest another one, but
yeah, no. I was thinking more like The Loved Ones, which was great. We all love The Loved Ones, so yeah, I wouldn't recommend this to anybody else, but Josh, I would like to know what you thought.
I mean, you're pretty close. When I was watching it, I started it last week, and then about 30 minutes into it, I was like, I really wish I wouldn't have started this. But I mean, you kind of hit it on the head. I don't mind character buildup. That doesn't bother me at all. In fact, I think it belongs somewhat in there. If you cut about 30 minutes out of this movie, I think it tightens it up a little bit, and it's a much easier watch. Because it's about an hour and 45, hour and 50-minute movie right now. And the first 50, 55 minutes of that movie is them setting up this whole thing. And if you cut about 25, 30 minutes off that front end, that movie is 10 times better, I think.
Yeah, as I said, I think, like, because the first, like, 20 minutes is just kind of establishing that him and his, like, ex-wife have a bad relationship, but I think they established that in the opening credits, so it's just kind of like, why do I need to get more of an idea of what's going on? I think they set that up really well there. Right. Like, there's no reason to continue it.
Yeah, I mean, I get, like, so they could have done what happened to his daughter, and he's in a bad way, and then he starts doing all the stuff he's like, all that could have been done, I think, in 30 minutes, more or less. But once I got to that back end of the movie, I understood why Patrick chose it for you. Mm-hmm. That first 50 minutes, I was like, well, this is a fucking drama. What are we watching right now? It's a drama. There's not a horror element at all in this movie whatsoever. I was like, I even told Patrick, I was like, Maddie's going to 45-minute this shit. And he let me know that he warned you. And so when you had mentioned something yesterday, I was like, don't 45-minute this movie. Just, if you have to fast forward, just get to that back half. Because I thought you'd like I said, I understood why Patrick chose that movie for you once I got to that back half. So it all made sense.
Yeah, well, and like, the other thing that kind of irritated me is, and this movie is 2012, so I'm going to spoil it. His brother, like, was, had killed his daughter. But, like, if you go back, like, his brother was kind of a serial killer anyway. And they tried to give him a motive, and he didn't need one, because I'm like, why do you need to give a serial killer a motive if he's already killing? That just didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are my thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, as I said.
Patrick, you did not watch this movie, though?
I did not watch the movie.
Yeah, as I said, just kind of amateur hour. Like, I feel like I've watched this movie in someone's garage as a favor.
Check out this movie I made, brah.
Yeah, brah. Check out this movie. That was another thing that drove me, like, nuts, was, like, the killer was, like, this total, like, dude bro, but it was so exaggerated that you're... Yeah, I'm not kidding. He was like, yeah, bro, come have a beer with me. Yeah, bro, look at these bitches. Isn't my cousin hot? That was an actual line in this movie, and I was just like...
Yeah.
Oh, funny.
Yep.
Patrick, watch it.
I don't have to now.
No, I want filmmakers to watch this movie, because I want, like, other people to tell me this is kind of amateur hour.
All right. Well, Josh and I watched movies were recommended movies for each other. So, Josh, do you want me to jump under the bus, or would you like to?
Whichever you want to do, sir. You're the leader.
I'll turn it over to you then. I want to hear what your thoughts are on The Perfection.
Yeah. So, why did you choose that movie? First of all.
Well, mainly for the reason that you said you would never watch it.
Yep.
So, suck it, bitch. I win.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also because I really appreciated it. I really liked it as a horror movie. It was kind of a little bit of a breath of fresh air. And the storyline is so twisty that it's hard not to get wrapped up into it. So I wanted to see what your thoughts were.
Right. You may have to help me through this a little bit because I watched it 2 weeks ago. My memory is dog shit. It's terrible. So you're right though. Like out of the gate, I think you and Patrick watched this movie for the 30 Days of Horror maybe, and you guys were talking about it. And just when it first came out, I was like, I will never watch this movie. There's nothing in this movie that interests me at all, just based off of the little bit of trailer that I had seen, hearing you guys talk about it, even though you talked positively about it. I was like, this just does not sound like my thing at all whatsoever. With that being said, I'm not that mad that I watched it. It kicks pretty quick. There's a little bit of setup, probably 10, 15 minutes maybe, of kind of who these girls are and their background. But once kind of that first night ends where they, have that concert or whatever and they go back and they do their thing, that next day, that movie kicks. And it doesn't really – it's got a nice pace to it. And you're always kind of interested in how things kind of got moving along. The only thing I hated about that movie was where – and I hate movies like this kind of in general, so don't take it bad or anything. But I hate movies that show you a whole big chunk of things and then they go back and show you how those things came to be. I was like, just show me. And it works for this movie. It kind of has to be done that way to keep you kind of guessing. So I get that. But I hate those movies where I watch something and then I watch the same damn thing with 20 seconds worth of change in it just to kind of show you how it got there. But yeah, the movie is nice and brutal for the most part. And I liked both the girls did a really good job acting wise. It was really good. I don't know. Actually, I said I was surprised I enjoyed the movie as much as I did, but I did enjoy that movie. That was a movie I would have never watched on my own. So thank you for the suggestion, sir.
You're welcome. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Was this a Tiffany movie?
Is there, go ahead, Maddie. Sorry.
It was, yeah. This was one where, because there's a vomiting scene in there, and Josh, tell me, were you grossed out by the vomiting scene?
Is that the one where she's puking all over the window in the bus?
Yep.
Yeah. No, that wasn't too bad. It was the scene, and I don't even remember if they showed it or not. It was a scene where they were out. They had just gotten kicked off the bus, and she was like, "There's something wrong with me," and she's seeing all the bugs crawl out of her arm, and that girl hands her that tool or whatever.
Yep.
That's where I was like, okay, this shit's gonna get interesting. And then they don't show it, but then again they go back and then they show it. Nothing grossed me out. Bugs and shit don't really gross me out. But it was like that. That was the one thing that I was like, oh, this is happening now. But again, going back and kind of showing how they got there worked for this movie because it was kind of interesting. You're like, oh, that bitch. You know what I mean? You never would have seen it come from who it came from. So
it's like I said, the storyline is very twisty. That's the one word.
Yeah.
If I'm going to assign a word to it, is it's twisty. And yeah, Maddie, it was a fucking Tiffany review, and apparently I'm a sucker for those because I want to go and see why whoever this person is writing this article is having such a terrible time with this, because there was nothing in there. I mean, outside of the very end, that was really vomit inducing or just gross. So.
It's just petty revenge. You're like, yeah, if that whore can handle it, I can. Yeah.
Well, good, Josh. I'm glad you enjoyed. I'm glad you
yeah,
you enjoyed it as much.
Pick.
Awesome.
Good pick. So,
well, I was recommended the movie Aterrados, or as most people would know it as Terrified, by Josh, which I think was a Shudder exclusive.
Yes, it was.
Awesome.
You want to know why I picked it?
Yes, let's do that first. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So originally why I picked it is because I remember watching it myself and having unnerving feelings about this movie. And I remember saying like, kind of like being like, I hope he watches it late at night, because I remember your thoughts on Last Shift, and I remember your thoughts on Paranormal Activity when you first saw those, and you were like, I had to turn the lights on, and I had just like you gripping your pillow tight and shit. Like I remember those feelings, and I was like, there's no way this movie is not gonna provoke those thoughts, and because I thought there's spots in this movie that are worse than either one of those films. So that's why I kind of picked Terrified for you.
And just so I can save face, I have a special horror watching pillow that I like to squeeze when I start getting a little bit more tense. So that's all that is. Because she won't sit out there and watch those with me. If I'm scared by a movie, she's nowhere near that.
That was not meant to throw you under the bus, by the way, Greg. That was not meant for that.
And I didn't take it that way. I wanted to explain that way if somebody says, a pillow, what the hell is he talking about? So just to preface, but kind of going off of that, 100%, this movie has atmosphere and tension and environment for days. I absolutely, I started watching it. I actually started watching it during the day so that I could get ready for our podcast that afternoon. And yeah, it's a creepy ass movie. I loved that aspect of it. The one piece that I had an issue with was the storyline. I followed it and it was good, but it didn't really hook me. And I feel like the only thing that it really had going for it was the tension and the atmosphere. A couple of scenes that stood out in my mind was the guy who set up the night vision camera in his bedroom to prove to the cops or whoever the paranormal doctor was that he wasn't going crazy was fantastic. Absolutely loved that scene. And I loved and I won't go too much into it because it's a fairly recent movie, was the reveal of what they were working with. It was kind of a light and darkness type situation. But really the scene that kind of hooked me to stay in it for the entire movie was the opening scene. You meet this couple who they're asleep in bed and they start hearing this gruesome pounding, and they think their neighbor is doing construction in their house in like the middle of the night, and the guy goes over there and the lady is like floating above the air, smashing herself against the walls. And it's a incredibly horrific scene. Awesome job. But really that was the biggest piece that I enjoyed from it, was the atmosphere, was the tension. The characters you could do without. The story was all right, but really it was the tension that sold this movie for me.
I'm actually excited to watch that one. It's been on my list for a while. It looks fun.
Yeah, definitely check it out. I definitely recommend it as a one watch, just to see if you have a different thought than I did, and maybe you picked up on something different in the story than I did. But for atmosphere alone, definitely 100% give it a watch. So excellent. Let's keep rocking and rolling. Maddie, we kicked off a new segment last time. Let's go to the box.
All right. And I'm not going to time you guys this time because everyone did a really good job of like staying brief and everything. So just say your piece.
And shut the hell up.
Yeah, just say your piece and be quick. Okay, the first one is the Pale Man from Pan's Labyrinth against Patrick Bateman from American Psycho. That's horrible. That's a horrible pairing. Anyone want to kick this off?
And this we're talking about what who the better killer is.
I'm kind of just talking about who's a better character overall. Although you could also just say, here's who I think I would win in a fight if you're in a pinch.
All right. Who wants to kickstart us?
I started last time, so I might as well start this time because I almost have to say I can't say on this one because I have never seen Pan's Labyrinth.
Oh, Patrick.
How have you never seen that movie?
I have never seen Pan's.
Who's picking Patrick next time? Make him watch it.
So, I mean, I can't really choose between the two. I mean, I'm looking at a picture of the Pale Man from Pan's Labyrinth, and he seems really gruesome. And are those eyes in his hands? Is what it looks
Yes.
like. You know, so I mean, when it comes to something created and creative, this is really cool looking. So yeah, I can't really pick between the two. Sorry.
That's fine.
They're so different. This is a creature. The other one is a psychopath.
Right.
I'll go. You're right. This is a super weird pairing because one of them so lives in that paranormal area, and the other one I think I'd end up dating. So
You're dating the Pale Man?
You're going to date the Pale Man.
So I don't know, because the thing with the Pale Man is in Pan's Labyrinth, you have such a brief clip of him, so you don't have that character build up. Patrick Bateman has an entire movie of him to build up and be crazy. I think Patrick Bateman is a little scarier because he's more realistic, and there's people like that out there, and the Pale Man's pretty easy to avoid if you can follow some goddamn instructions. So I'm going to go with Patrick Bateman as my winner, even though the Pale Man is amazing, and Doug Jones is just such a fantastic actor, and I love everything that he portrays.
100% fact.
Yeah. Greg or Pat or Josh.
Josh, go ahead. You were ready.
I think if the Pale Man and Patrick Bateman met in a stairwell, Patrick Bateman would win that fight. I don't really remember the Pale Man all that well from Pan's Labyrinth. I love that movie, but I don't remember that character all that well. But I do remember how brutal Patrick Bateman is. So just with that knowledge, I would go with Patrick Bateman. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Really, this is a very difficult a comparison because, yeah, you're talking two different worlds, fantasy versus reality. As far as who the better killer is, I would say probably Patrick Bateman, only because he is that psychotic and he goes off and just kills people for absolutely no reason whatsoever. I want to give my nod to the Pale Man, though, because as a murderous monster, as a villain, as a killer, whatever you want to call it, is fucking terrifying for the 20 minutes or 2 minutes or 10 minutes that he's on screen. You know, Patrick Bateman got a whole movie. This guy gets a snippet of the Pan's Labyrinth movie, and he steals the show. Again, props to Doug Jones because he is an incredible guy at what he does. Yeah, he's played so many different roles, and he has just knocked it out of the park. Actually, I've got the fish guy from Shape of Water over on my thing, too. I should have grabbed that in honor of Doug Jones. So I'm picking the Pale Man. That's just me, though.
Yeah. No, you definitely have a point there. I mean, he's got a 5-minute screen time, and he's the ultimate villain in that movie.
Exactly.
It's crazy. Patrick, I'm still just so blown away that you have not seen this movie.
What can I say? I've led a sheltered life.
Okay. I think you'd like it. I've actually never known anyone who hasn't liked that movie, to be honest.
It's a great Guillermo del Toro movie. If you like his movies, it's right up your alley. So, all right, that was our killer combat showdown comparison, whatever you want to call it. We are going to rock it right over to our movie review. I believe Patrick was our picker for this movie. So, Patrick, give us the deets.
I will give you the deets. The movie I picked was called Pledge from 2018, running an hour and 20 minutes, now showing on Hulu. 3 friends are desperate to improve their terminally uncool reputations by pledging to one of the university's prestigious Greek houses. When every frat on campus turns them down, they're unexpectedly recruited by a shadowy social club offering them access to an exclusive world of raging parties, eligible co-eds, and VIP social status. But first, they'll have to survive the hazing from hell. IMDb rating 5.8, Metacritic score rating 64, Rotten Tomatoes critics rating 76%, and Rotten Tomato audience score 70%. So why I picked this movie? 1, because it was on Hulu, so not only could we all see it, but most of our listeners could see it. 2, none of us had seen it. And 3, it had some pretty decent reviews and scores.
Yeah, I was going to say, those scores are high for a horror movie.
Really high.
Yeah, I feel like everything we watch, we're like, they got a 30%.
And I think they're high for this movie as well. So who wants to start?
I'm going to start and say I committed a podcast sin and I did not watch this movie. I know. I have like no excuse except, as I said, oddly enough, for being trapped in the house, I was really busy. I do plan on watching this movie. It just didn't happen this week. So
well, and this had one element that's right up your alley, and the fact that it was a very short movie. It only ran an hour 17 if you exclude the credits.
Oh, talk dirty to me, Daddy. That's what I like. I will watch it. As I said, I am going to watch it. This did look really interesting. Right up my alley with...
you may change your mind after we talk about the movie for a while.
Okay.
I don't know. We'll see.
All right, I'll jump in. Unless you want to, Josh.
No,
okay.
Yeah, go for it, man.
This was one that I had come across in looking for movies to recommend for my fellow cast members here. And I read the synopsis. I wasn't totally sold on it, so I moved on by. I guess it boomeranged back my way. I'm glad to have watched this movie. I consider it a one watch, and that's really about all that you need from it. It's a decent horror movie. It's very formulaic, I felt. The ending was a little bit predictable for me. I called it about halfway through on what was going to happen. Really what makes this a good horror movie, the gore in it. It's got plenty of disgusting, bloody scenes. It's got some great, I guess you could call them kills. It was entertaining. You know, I'm kind of fence sitting on this one. I'm also trying to remember what it was since I watched it 2 weeks ago, but it's worth a watch for whatever it is. The story's decent. The characters, you definitely root for them. The protagonists and the antagonists, you want them to be just fucking smashed. But really, it's good for a one watch. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, I like the three. Is it 3 or 4 like dorky dudes at the beginning? I like that initial setup where they're bouncing from frat house to kind of like, you know, set up what they're doing and seeing how they're trying to, you know, fit into these houses that they clearly would never ever in a million years fit into. I like the beginning. I was like, this is kind of semi-promising. Like I said, that's mainly because I liked is it 3? Is it 3 or 4? Those
3.
dorky dudes. 3. Okay. I like those guys.
There was 3.
I thought they were all right. Once they get invited to the actual house and the whole party scene goes on and everything starts to go down, that's where it kind of was like, this, I don't want to play in this game anymore. I thought it was plot twisty. I'm not like Greg. I didn't call anything. Well, I don't know if I can, because Maddie didn't watch it, so like I don't want to say anything, but like there's one thing I didn't see happening. But I mean, you're right, as far as the gore goes, it was all right. I didn't think it was anything like crazy. I don't know, it was just all right. 70% is way high, but it was short. That hour and 17, hour and 20 minute mark was about right for that movie and what went on. They said the only thing that went fairly decent for me in this movie was those 3 characters at the beginning were written well enough. I kind of enjoyed those guys.
So I'm kind of hearing just a meh from you guys. So why do you guys think it got such a high score with everything? No idea.
People were bored.
I don't know. And it came out when there was some really good movies that came out during that time as well. It was late 2018, early 2019 when this was released. So compared to some of the other things that came out around that time, I'm surprised the ratings were that high.
Okay, I thought this was super, super new. And I feel like everything that's coming out right now, since we're all stuck inside, is fucking fantastic. So I feel like all the ratings are skewed.
This movie is like, it's Revenge of the Nerds if the Revenge of the Nerds went real south real quick.
Yeah.
Is basically what it is.
I really wouldn't have minded if there was probably another 5 to 10 minutes and let them get really dark in it. I didn't think they pushed it as far as they could have. I thought it was pretty tame.
In what respects? As far as like what they were making the pledges do, or?
Yes, that, or just playing more with the mind fuck.
Okay.
in the script, because yes, there's something at the end, but it was kind of predictable. I believe you said use the word formulaic, Greg.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it was. I said, okay, now this is going to happen. Sure, now this is going to happen. There just wasn't a lot of originality in it.
But did you call that? Sorry, Maddie, I'm sorry. But
No, spoil it. It's fine.
Did you call that one member was going to turn?
No. What I called was that the 3 pledge boys that were in the frat, the nerds, we'll call them the nerds. I called that the 3 of them were not pledging for that like they thought, but that the 3 other guys, the guys that were in the house already, were pledging, and that was their initiation.
Okay, that's what I got that. I thought you were talking about calling that pledge was initially part of the dorky guys.
I saw
that he was offered a pin at the end.
Yeah,
I saw it coming when it came down to the showdown between him and the other guy in the basement, or the other 3 guys in the basement. I knew that was going to happen at that point.
Yeah,
but other than that, no. Once
the older members of the group entered the room, that's what I figured was going to happen, that they were going to drop a pin for him at the end. I, too, had also called the other thing that you had mentioned, Greg, that, that was pretty early on that I figured that was what was happening. I guess one thing I didn't necessarily see was the one guy that was in their group he wasn't part of the 3 nerds, but he was part of that group that you thought were pledging to it, that he was part of it. I didn't.
Yeah. Was he the one that was on the table, or the one that I can't remember if he cut his throat?
Yeah.
It was the guy
that cut his throat.
Yeah. That mouse bit, by the way, the
rat?
They did with the rat. I've seen that multiple times in other things. Every time you see it, though, it's still like that. For some reason, that just...
It's cringeworthy.
Yeah. So that was the only bit in there that I was like, that sucks. That's rough.
So I guess my overall, review of it is it wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. I mean, it was a decent film.
Mm-hmm.
Just I'm not going to throw it at the top of my list of anything.
No, I mean, it definitely, like you said, watchable.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, just didn't stand out for me.
It's good for a one watch. If you're bored, you want a horror movie, check out Pledge. Not The Pledge, not with Jack Nicholson. Pledge.
Yeah. I
tried looking it up on IMDb, and I was like, that's not. Pledge, got it.
I also didn't feel like it was a waste of my time either.
Well, yeah, if it's only an hour and 17 minutes, it's not wasting your time.
But, there are movies like that, though, that you're watching it, you're going like, oh, fuck, why did I invest the time? And this, I didn't feel that way about this one. I mean, I don't feel like I wasted my time watching it.
I felt better about watching Pledge than I did watching, I know, than I did watching Await Further Instructions.
See, I really actually like to wait further instructions the last 15 minutes. And then it went balls up.
Right. All right. Well, we rate on a fun factor, a gore score, and an overall, and would you recommend to a friend? So, Josh, what's your rating on the fun factor?
I'm going to go down the middle with a solid 5.
Patrick?
Ditto. I would say a 5. There were things I really enjoyed, but they didn't push it any further than that.
I'm going to follow suit and say 5 as well. I felt like it's a middle-of-the-road movie. It's worth a one watch. So, gore score. Josh, what do you got?
With the fight at the end and the rat bit, 3 or 4? 4, I think is fair. 5 maybe, in that general area. I think it's safe.
Patrick?
Yeah.
I think 4 is a safe number on that. Even with the rat bit, they didn't really show anything.
They didn't show it, right?
Yeah. And I think probably the worst gore that you saw was the throat slit. All the rest of it was pretty run-of-the-mill during the fight, stabbing.
Yeah.
I don't think there were any creative kills in this from what I remember.
Not at all.
So I think 4 is probably fair.
I'm actually going to break away from the pack. I'm going to give it a 6. 1 for the rat bucket scene, because yes, that was pretty nasty. 2 for the throat slitting and that. 3, and this one wasn't a kill, but it was the soup that they made them eat. Yeah, I think that was probably the roughest part of this. And so that's why I'm going to give it a 6, because I came pretty close to retching after that.
I mean, that's not what they're eating, but they sold it pretty well.
They did. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So overall, would you recommend to a friend? Josh.
I'm going to said solid, probably, fair. I think 5 down the middle is fair for that movie. If somebody asked me about it, I wouldn't tell them not to watch it, but I wouldn't chase anybody down and tell them they need to find it. But yeah, definitely if somebody said, hey, have you ever seen this movie? What do you think? I'd tell them to give it a shot, I guess. If they're curious.
Okay. Patrick.
Same thing. I would say, and this is tough for me because, if you look back at the podcasts, I gave Await Further Instructions a 5, and I gave The Void a 6. And this movie is not as good as The Void, but it is better than Await Further Instructions, so I would probably say a 5.5, even though I think it deserves a 5. And would I recommend it to a friend? Completely agree with Josh. I'm not going to chase anybody down and say, hey, you need to check this out. But I would say to them, if they said, hey, what do you think of this movie? I said, it's worth a watch.
All right. And I'm going to agree with that. I'm going to give it a 5.5 because I want to push it on the side of, you should probably check it out at least once. So 5.5, I think, is a very fair score. And I agree with you, Patrick. I'm not gonna say, hey, everybody go out and see this movie. If you ask, I'll say watch it. If not, there's other fish in the sea you can check out and you'll be more impressed with. So 5.5 on Pledge.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think it was a really good effort by the production team, by the director, the writer, and everything else, but it just didn't push it as far as it could have.
The one of the main casts, and I meant to look this up, was actually either the writer or the director. I don't know if anybody caught that.
Yeah, he was the writer. Zach Weiner.
Yeah, the guy that played the nerdy guy with the glasses was the writer.
Was the writer.
Oh, okay.
So that was interesting. But
he was he was the coolest of the group too.
Of the nerds.
Kind of.
Interesting enough that the writer wrote his character the best.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. I swear with some of these low budget movies, they're just kind of like, we don't have anybody else just to get in there.
All right. That was our review on Pledge. Anybody have anything they wish to plug?
Stay the fuck inside, you assholes.
And buy local if you have to.
Yep.
She meant please stay inside.
No, I did not.
And it's so weird because, the people you're talking to already, it's like you're preaching to the choir. We would hope that most of our friends understand you got to stay in.
Yeah, but they need to tell their friends and weird relatives and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, as someone who spends like 90% of their life in their home, like, it's not that bad. As I slowly get drunk on the podcast, my life is great.
You'll adapt quicker than you think you will.
Yeah, I think for most people it's just they don't like being told what to do.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah.
And that's my kink. So y'all need to just get with the program.
Take instructions or you die. Your choice.
So if you're a fan of the Frightcast, we know you are, help us out. Make sure that you head on over to iTunes or whatever platform you're listening to us on and make sure that you rate and review us. Check us out on social media. You can find us pretty much anywhere. Just look for Midnight Frightcast. And also make sure that you check out our films at midnightfrightfilms.com.
All right. This has been episode number 78 for Greg the Movie Guy, Maddie the Scream Queen, Josh the other guy in the room, and Patrick, the guy who does everything else. We wish you a pleasant day. Stay inside, stay safe, stay healthy, and we will catch you on the next time. Take care, everybody.